Blessings, everyone. Welcome to my true life story, part 1. I was born in St. James, Montego Bay, Jamaica, in a little district named Irving, right by the river. I was the firstborn of 3 sets of twins. My parents has 9 children. 2 died, 7 alive. I have 5 sisters, 1 brother, which is my twin, and I'm the 5th child of the family. I don't remember much about my life in Montego Bay because my parents returned back to the parish where my father came from. So I left at a very tender age. I then come to the realization when my parents went to live in St. Anne, Jamaica, in a little district called Belmont, with the rest of my siblings. This is as far as my memory goes back to. And I remember every details. As a child growing up there, my father was a butcher and my mother was an housewife. They both were 2 hard-working people, full of love and fun to be around. At times, my father was so cold, especially when someone messes with us. But my mother, I can say she was so cool. I attended the Stewartstown Basic School in St. Anne. I remember sometimes when my mother used to cook lunch at home and meet us halfway on the road, where we would sit on the sidewalk and eat our lunches, so to go back to school by the bell to ring. We have been through a lot of ups and downs in our lives, lots of struggling, and at times, but my parents were always trying their best for us. Mama used to tell us stories and riddle. In those days, she was fun to be around. I can remember each mango season when my father would go to Mango Bush. We would call it Mango Walk. And they both would take back the mangoes from the bush, then bring them home, throw them under a normal tree in the yard and then call us to come and pick up them as if it had fallen from this direct tree. Those days we were so young and fool. We didn't even realize that the tree that the mango was under wasn't a real mango tree, and that the mango did not arrive from that specific tree until later on. And we used to enjoy taking the mangoes from the ground, washing them and eating them, believing that all these mango was fallen from this tree. We all enjoy doing so. Sometimes my father do farming, and days at the farm we used to roast yam and corn. I used to love especially the roast corn. Me and my partner, that's my twin brother, and my last sister, we used to love eating the roast corn, especially me and my partner. And we used to shell the corn from the stick. Normally, then we would play a game with the grains of the corn. The game is called Sip Sail. A lot of Jamaican who remember these days, I know they all should be familiar with this game. So when playing this specific game, we would start by saying sip sail. Then the person would say sail fast. That means whoever else is playing the game with you. Then y'all ask how many man, and we will guess a number of grains that the person has in his or her hand. And if you're correct, guessing the correct number that the person is holding in his or her hand, then those grains of corn belongs to you. So immediately the winner would then throw those winning grain of corns in their mouth. It was fun doing so. As a child, I also used to be afraid of rain, especially when there is lightning and thunder. I remember I used to run and cry, calling for my mother and telling her that judgment is coming. I used to love climbing trees. It was one of my main hobbies as a child. And catching butterflies and put them in a bottle. Peeny Wally. Lot of Jamaican is familiar with Peeny Wally. We used to call it Peeny. This is a kind of insect that has light. You see them every night, and they are mainly in the country area. One night, while we were playing with them, my mother has a pot of water on the fire. As in those days, our elders used outside kitchen with firewood. So when the water finished boiling, it was now time for the sister that was born before me to remove it from the fire and to pour it into the thermos, because every night my mother normally filled a thermos with boiling water to keep inside if in case somebody need a cup of tea or stuff like that. So it was my sister's turn now to empty the water into the thermos. On doing so, I accidentally run into her with the hot pot of boiling water, and as far as I can remember, I got a very bad burn. In those days, people never used to rush to the doctor or hospitals like now. They normally use home remedy. So my mother uses the dry path of the banana tree, what we would call the bark of the banana, then burn it and sprinkled the dust on my left arm until the wound had dried up. And right there and then I never go back to play or to catch Peeny Wally anymore at night. Peeny Wally was very common to play with as a child growing up in the parish that we were living. Lot of children loves to play with them because of the light that they carries. We even used to put them in bottle also, and we would keep them until the next day. And on the next day, the light on them was dimmed. So we would let them out in the morning. Some would fly away, but some wouldn't. And when the night begins, after then the light will start to blink again, meaning the Peely Wally ready to go and fly. But as from the lesson that I have learned from the burn that I got during that night, catching and running and playing all around with the lights on the Peeny Wally, and wasn't taking note that my sister was coming toward me with that pot of boiling water. From then I learned my lesson as a child. So I did not go back to play with Peeny Wally anymore. At each evening when my father would arrive home, I always feel this scary feeling because he wasn't a person that talks a lot. Whenever we do something out of our boundaries, he never used to talk. My mother were the one who would do most of the talking. My father was a very serious man. He always said to my mother sometimes that she takes everything for a joke. So, by just looking at me when he gets home, he definitely didn't have to speak or warn me about playing with Peeny Wally at night anymore. Because just by the look of one of his eyes, I already know what he is saying to me. And believe you me, he used to carry a very, as I said, scary looks, especially when he is upset. Now, playing at night was one of my favorite time. I used to be more happier at night than the day. And my partner, that the twin of mine, and my last sister, who she's also a twin, but her partner is one of the ones that unfortunately never make it. My sister, the one that I bumped into with the hot water, that's the sister that born before me. She was also one of the twins. She was the eldest twin. But her partner was one of the unfortunate ones that did not make it also. So, our life there in St. Anne's, Trelawney, at my father's parish, where my father was born, there and then is where I started to realize my life. And from then on, I always noticed that there was something different about me from my other siblings. I always been the one to be seen most likely as the black sheep of the family. I don't know in those days if my other siblings were noticing these things, but at a very tender age I started picking up on things. It's like I have a double sense. I started to see things in another perspective. And from there on, our journey and our sad but happy life continues until my parent decided to move again. That is for now. I hope y'all enjoy. Please stay tuned for more as my story continues. God bless us all.